Oh boy, yes.
All right.
All right. So, yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and ask everybody to the rereading of the mottos. Eldritch, your motto was "Words level mountains" or something.
Speak strongly, and your words can level mountains.
Well, you did yell at those guys in the street, so I'm gonna go ahead and give you a point for that. So you get +1 experience point. Captain Sam, what was your motto?
Why fight when you can negotiate?
And there were several times that you negotiated rather than fighting. Definitely get a point for that. Donovan, what's your motto?
Stars and study lead the way.
You not only did you successfully navigate here, but you also talked to some smart guys, so it's a point for you. And Ada, what was yours?
If you lose sight of me, you've already lost.
Yep, so that's definitely a point. So everyone got 1 experience point for living up to their mottos. Did anyone accomplish any goals? I don't think anyone's actually accomplished any goals yet.
No.
Technically, I claimed that goal from earlier.
Okay, well, once you claim a goal, cross it off your list. It's done.
We did.
Okay. So, all right, and so now we're going to have the debriefing. So I know we had a couple of hang-ups with the rules. Did anything happen in terms of game rules that you guys are just scratching your heads going, I don't understand that?
The way rallying works?
Okay, so the way rallying works is you get to roll your will and leadership, and every 4 better you get is a success or a boon that you can claim. If they're really far away, the range penalty might go up. Like, say, if they're on a rooftop somewhere, then I might roll a die and raise it to like 5s, 6s, or 7s or better. Every success you score, you can add an extra thing. You can remove certain debuffs. These are listed in the book under rallying. The most common debuffs you can remove is you can remove a reeling debuff, so someone can get their actions back. You can remove an afraid debuff, so someone's allowed to attack again. That's normally what rallying does. If you have the gift of True Leader, you have an extra buff you can add, where you can give someone focus, which is a bonus action. But you can only do that if you have True Leader. True Leader does not need to add any dice. True Leader just allows you to add actions to other people.
Okay, but then whenever I use the True Leader action adding thing, it takes my full turn? Or
No.
it takes both of my actions to do?
What True Leader does is it says when anyone in the world is allowed to take a rally action to rally someone else. Anyone can just yell at somebody and say, will and leadership, and if I roll successfully, I can remove reeling and afraid from anyone. Anyone is allowed to do that. I have to emphasize that. All characters, NPCs and PCs, are allowed to do that. If you have the gift of True Leader, you're also allowed that if you roll, that if you run out of stuff to do, like you run out of debuffs to remove, you could add an extra action to somebody. But only people with True Leader are allowed to do that. So does that make sense?
I've been doing the other game a whole lot.
Yeah, I made a mistake earlier. I only took 1 action. I'll be right back.
Okay.
No, I think
all right.
it's because you were reeling.
I think it's because you were reeling, because reeling makes you lose an action. That's what true. And if you have the gift of white magic, you also get another boon that you can actually remove hurt from people. Eldritch has white magic, and the paladins have white magic. So they can their rally actions can actually remove hurt from other people.
Which makes me much more effective in the...
Right. So True Leader and white magic just unlock extra things you can do. They don't actually have more dice.
Question.
Yes.
Okay, so I have that insider, I guess, gift. I really don't care about being an insider on these people.
So sell it back.
You can sell that back for 5 experience points. Yep, you can sell that back for 5 experience points. In game terms, you just didn't care.
I'm just gonna sell it back, and when I'm gonna be close.
Right.
That way, I can still use it if I need to right now.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a built-in rule in the game that a lot of times you'll get like local knowledge or insider with these people that I just helped. And sometimes players will go, I don't care about these people anymore. That's fine. Get 5 experience points. It's a nice way of letting you level up in the game at your own pace, and some people will go, well, I do care about these people and spend time being chummy with them. Other people say, no, I got better things. I need to learn how to murder better and trade that back. And it lets me in the game stimulate like reputation and favors and that kind of stuff. And it's the built-in mechanic in the game of encouraging guys to level up. I mean, the opposite of this is when you play a point-based game like Vampire the Masquerade, no one ever buys reputation some people will go, oh, I do. most people don't buy these kinds of social gifts like reputation with the people I just helped or anything like that, because why would you? You just buy more killing skills. Right. I mean, some people would. But we just built it into the game where we just say, look, you all help them, your reputation, everyone's rep goes up, and if you guys want to sell that back, that's up to you. I mean, I just think that works a little more organically. So we expect you to do it.
Your name reputation.
So you give us XP in the form of gifts, and then go. You can sell it back if you want, or you can be friends with these guys.
Right.
Okay. I have actually 2 more questions. Was there any goals associated with what we were doing with these paladins? Because I technically also wasn't there to pick up anything.
Eldritch, what did you write down as the goal?
I have it down as root out the necromantic conspiracy.
Yeah, the goal is root out the necromantic conspiracy.
Okay, so I'll just add that to mine because
you can party up and add that to your list. You have not successfully. Evidently, whoever they are, they have trained assassins who are skilled enough to defeat Medjay guards.
And who will come after us through wandering down the street.
Also,
they might have orders, yeah. I mean, you are killing them, but it's dangerous. In fact, I think some of you commented, wow, this fight turned around very quickly. Yes, welcome to Ironclaw, where fights turn around very quickly. I like it.
I meant that it was starting in their favor, and then it immediately turned to our favor as soon as I blew one of them up.
Right. I mean, that's personally something I love, because you killed one of them, and the rest of them fled because the tide turned. And that's a sticking point with me, because I was just complaining about monsters earlier. So I can talk crap. I'm gonna make this short. Like, what annoys me with the game, like Assassin's Creed Syndicate, is we're a guild of assassins. We're subtle. Now to leave 12 bodies in the middle of the street, in a populous city, no one will come looking for us after we commit. After we kill more people in 15 minutes than Jack the Ripper killed in his entire career.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we kind of wanted to get away. So one thing about this whole system of overkills and afraid means a bunch of guys showed up to kill you. You defended yourselves. They injured some of you. You chased them off. And that's what I really like about that. So
I'm like the actual person killing these. I've killed 2 of them. I don't know if they know it was me the first time with the first guy I killed.
I think they're intelligent enough to put 2 and 2 together and be like, hey, these guys that we keep ambushing in the street, they keep murdering us, and there's always one that runs away covered in blood.
Yeah, so my question about that is is it possible for my character to become more targeted or feared by them?
You might already be feared by them. Did you
I'm
notice
showing signs of clear assassin training and just murderizing them?
Well, it's kind of hard to tell, because when you're rolling 7 successes with stealth, it's like they weren't even baiting you. They went to go attack a bunch of paladins, which they were doing a really good job of until you showed up.
And then Batman appears for some reason.
And also, it is worth noting that after you overkilled one of them, because you need to take away from this what you can observe. After you overkilled one of them, they fled the scene. They didn't stay to fight to the death, so they obviously were afraid of you.
Yeah, those people in the street that didn't see, and then I popped out swinging at them. They just ran.
Right. I know sometimes I get a little meta. Like, I usually describe the NPCs in broad strokes. Like when I say, like the Medjay says, "What skills do you have useful in convincing me I'm bad at my job?" I'm trying to give you some insight into, these are real people with their own motivations and why I'm making you roll. So I do try to get a little meta, because I want to make sure you understand that these are people. Most people you meet just have their own motivations. Don't get fired. Don't die. Do my job. And I want you, like, when you try to relate to NPCs, I want you to relate to them as thinking, like, okay, let's put this person at ease, find out what they want, and then deal with them. Like when the guards show up and try to take you down.
I remember,
here are some guards of this place, and a clear assassin just walked through. I'm not going to harass and lie to them. I'm going to be like, hey,
yeah,
Your job.
That was a thing I remember reading from
I like
the old first edition books. That every NPC has 3 motivations.
Yeah,
And one of them is always don't die.
not always. Did you remember who didn't have don't die?
Suicide Man.
No, the undead monsters don't die. Because they don't care.
But that's a pretty good rule of thumb in general. Most people don't want to die, and I try to play my NPCs that way a lot.
Right. Most of the, and we've listed that on some of our NPCs in like the published adventures we have. We list their own goals, and one of them is don't die to remind players about that. Yeah. So that's the kind of, we kind of want that Game of Thrones kind of, feel going on here where people are self-motivated. So I sometimes use very broad strokes for that, but sometimes people are, I worry people are just used to computer games where every NPC just can't get themselves killed fast enough. And I don't know why I could go on about that, but that's our game. So were there more questions about the game or about the rules?
I actually wanted to elaborate on that real quick. Is there like a priority to that too? Because like one of the common goals for people is that they have something they're willing to die for.
On NPCs we've usually got it ranked, and like as Eldridge pointed out, number one is survive. Like it'll be number 1, survive. Number 2, protect the castle. And it's kind of like, if the NPC, like when a person like Ada shows up and overkills one guy in a single hit, the other guy's going to look at that going, well, I want to survive, but I also want to protect the castle. And that's a player character over there just killed someone in one hit. Yeah. So, yeah.
I like how that guard that the first person I tried to kill in the game is still alive. He's just that guard.
Yeah, but also there, and one reason why we have the hurt and injured system, if you've seen Eldridge point out, hurt is easy to fix. It only takes 5 minutes with first aid from any character anywhere, whereas injured takes a longer time. So that's something we're supposed to encourage players and NPCs to think about. NPCs who are just like reeling hurt and maybe afraid, they're still in it to win it. But the reason why there's afraid is the bump between hurt and injured is that, when the NPC, gets injured, okay, like I don't want to get injured because that's going to be a big pain in the butt to cure. It's supposed to like draw lines between fine or dead. So I hope you're enjoying it. So
yeah, I'm enjoying it. And I'm sorry to have so many questions, but there is one last question.
No, that's why we have debriefing.
Does every role have the 666 rule, or just supernatural?
Only wicked rolls, only necromancy, and rolls that are specifically labeled in the book are necromancy. Elementalism and thaumaturgy are safe, but if it's a necromantic roll, if it rolls 666s, something bad happens.
Like I can't just be like climbing over a fence and then 666, and then the devil pops out the fence.
Nah, not unless like you're creating a mountain of bodies or something, I imagine.
Or
no, there's like things I can tap. There's things I can tap that would let me roll an additional 3d6. So I could climb a fence and summon the powers of the devil to help me out.
So
and then the devil shows up and asks for something in return now.
See, it's interesting because
that's called the dark bargain, actually.
The dark bargain. All right. The theory of magic in Ironclaw is knowledge is belief and belief is power. Most magic is usually the power from within. Like Donovan, I believe, Donovan will believe that I can make air appear, and it does. Blam. Or I believe that you're going to trip and fall, and I'll say the words and make the correct gesture, and you will, because I'm exerting power over you. I have the power from within.
I have the power.
Necromancy is the power from without. It goes by the theory that when people die, they don't always pass on from this world, and there are spirits inherent into anything. In theory, if you could tap into this, spirits of the world and all the lives that come before you and all the ancestors, that power must be amazing. I mean, look what one wizard can do. Imagine if you could tap into the power of everyone who has ever lived and died. That power would be almost unlimited.
Does that mean that all necromancy is it inherently evil?
Well, good.
Not all of it.
Evil, these are imprecise terms. I mean, it depends what you mean by that. I think setting someone on fire is considered evil.
Oh, absolutely.
No,
asking for help from your ancestors, is that
well, here's the problem. With the power from that, when you call upon the power of necromancy, you're calling upon the spirits, but the spirits have their own wants and desires of stuff they want to do. And when you call upon them to help you, and bring them a conduit into this world, they might do what you say, or they might pursue their own agendas. And I want you to think about everyone who's ever lived, and I apologize for profanity here, includes every asshole who has ever lived.
Well, the question I'm having is, like, can you summon power from, like, the ghost of your family and have, like, a familiar of your family or so?
Yep.
It's still necromancy, though.
But it's still necromancy, and the problem is when you open the conduit from this world to the spirit world, the 666 rule isn't necessarily that evil comes to this world. The 666 is that some other power comes into this world. But if you've been paying attention to the Psalmere and the Shining Light, they say, oh, well, if you're a good person and beyond worldly concerns, you'll dissolve into the Shining Light and enjoy bliss, which means you won't be a spirit, which means that most of the spirit energy that is hanging around is from greedy, angry, evil people. So most spirit energy here is from people who are evil.
The Doloro would argue against that.
Right. Now the pagans are, but the problem is when you so some magic in the game has the option of becoming wild and uncontrolled, and that includes necromancy, and that's why necromancy is often banned. Because, and also, like, even if it wasn't, like, quote, evil, unquote, I want to point out here that Eldritch has one of the most basic necromancy spells of all time, which is Speak with Dead, which means he can saw off your head, carry it around with him, and ask it questions whenever he freaking wants. So you know that phrase, like one of my favorite Ironclaw moments where someone turned to a necromancer and said, "Wait, you can't kill me? I have information you need." The necromancer just looked at him.
Stab.
It's actually easier for me to get the information out of you if you're dead.
I have to applaud you, Raph. You've created a very, very well simulated religion. It's hard to understand, very confusing, and mystical.
One of the goals behind the game was we wanted a medieval fantasy, and a lot of times people make up a made up religion in fantasy. Is they'd say, oh well, obviously we're gonna go Greco-Roman, right? We're gonna have a god of war and a god of love and a god of knowledge, because that's medieval, right? Greco-Roman. So we've gone through, and as you can see here, we've tried to invoke different like what's challenging about Horn and Ivory is, as we mentioned, not just ancestor worship, and I can't resist dropping the Pillar Men bomb because it cracks me up. But it's actually slightly more involved with that, and since Eldritch is a necromancer, he's very interested in that because it's the only necromantic organization in the game. But also you notice like religion's also a political force. Magic is banned within Heliopolis because the occupying force is figuring wizards can't help us keep this place or whatever. So, they're promoting this stuff. And also, you've got paladins who are an actual political force. Like, I'm glad you guys kind of picked up the paladins so you can see clerical law versus secular law. We wanted to capture that feel. That's why I keep saying, like, it's Game of Thrones, but with furries. So I'm glad you guys are really into it, and I hope that the politics of the world work hand in hand with the rules, the mechanics of the world. Like, we want to make sure that you guys do things like, let's not fire a gun because it might cause attention, or let's not, do necromancy in public where everyone can see it. Like you'll actually feel like that.
Spells because they don't like them.
See, just to be kind of like a stickler, I think the interactions and stuff isn't necessarily entirely the game. I think that's also partially you, although the game is set up to do things like that.
Well, I don't want the rule. I mean, I could go into a big long speech of how, like, some games the rules just fight you. Like, my big go-to was whenever someone tries to run a murder mystery in a game. It's like, this man's been murdered. Oh, well, let's just raise him from the dead and ask him who killed him. And
that's where you do the, well, I didn't see him. He came from behind.
Yeah,
he
Right,
was large and carried this weapon.
Right, and then you're starting to get into, well, I mean, like all urgency was lost. It was like, well, he was oh my god, this man was murdered. Oh man, if only we had 5,000 gold. And you know, it robs some of the urgency of it, and then you run into the problem where, you know, like I want to get into simulationism here, where you may have mentioned, you know, the way I'm handling it, the way the world handles it. You're meeting a lot of people who only have a piece of the larger puzzle, and they're all self-interested. Like Bali here in his Monument Valley doesn't know about that assassin who for some reason retreated into his valley. Now, when you mention this to him, he believes you and is concerned about it and might actually be an ally to help you, but he doesn't know. He's not in on it, you know, as near as you can tell. So
it's not like, oh yeah, now I know exactly what's happening.
And Nier has their own motivation, and Coriana has her own motivations, and everyone knows a little piece, and you guys gather that. And that's what I want to kind of get at. If I just ran the kind of game of like, oh no, haha, you didn't, you know, of course he never saw this, you know, of course he used, you know, anti teleportation magic to come into this room.
The goblin saw you go around the corner, so his buddy in the other room knows where you are.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is a little more rational. I'm talking about where you start piling magic on magic. Like, oh, yeah, of course, he had his anti-teleportation shell and then was invisible, but he has detect invisible. Like, I just want to, once you start getting into this, like, you know, everything proof shield category of fantasy, that's why some people call Ironclaw a low fantasy. But once again, that's why I'm comparing it to Game of Thrones, where it's like, you know, we're going to talk politics. I mean, you know, it's supposed to be
it's still fantasy. It's low
it's
magic.
Sword
fantasy.
and dried blood on armor.
Right,
It's
and
not massive pauldrons and fairies.
And that means I actually have to stop people from knowing I'm an assassin.
Yep, and also it means being an assassin actually means something. So, but yeah, I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. Well, I'd like to thank you for participating in the debriefing. Everyone gets an extra experience point, so that's a total of 2 experience points for participating in the debriefing. Which is why we put it as part of the game. We wanted to encourage you guys to talk about it and it's taking a genuine interest. So that's 2 experience points. I don't think anyone accomplished any goals. I think one of you said you wanted to sell back a gift. Once again, if you have a gift that you don't give a care about, you can sell it back and get 5 experience points.
No,
Buying a new skill mark costs 4 points. Buying a new gift costs 10 points. Buying an attribute up to the next die size also costs 10 points because it is a gift. And I'll let you guys think about that for a little bit, but I do have to get away from the Evil Glowing Box. As you can see here from the stream, yes, people, Horn and Ivory is coming out. It's almost done. I can taste it. So we're going to go ahead and release this real soon now. I got to put some final touches. I'd like to thank everybody for playing.
Thanks for DMing.
Yeah, that's very fun.
Does it count
Next time, into the basement.
or is it like
There's one thing
local
he
mastering?
There's
And
one
end
thing
stream.
about how